Good evening. We are here to commemorate the day before Thanksgiving. Does anybody know if Biden pardoned the turkey or is he on vacation? And I don't mean that in a political sense. I was just asking. I don't know. Are we doing that now? Has Beyond Meat made a turkey that can be pardoned? Oh, the microphone's giving me a little guff today. I don't know what's up. How are you? It's such a weird day. I had people calling me, working. I was working. But there was like this understanding that tomorrow nobody's going to be working. So all your work needs to be done today. I had people call. I don't know. I was like, I gave my buddy the day off for Thursday and Friday. Probably won't show many houses tomorrow. Nobody will call. I did have somebody call one time on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. Showed her a house. The house was on Zillow, and Zillow adds the basement to the square footage. So she thought she was looking for an 800 or 1,800 square foot home for $70,000. It's not really, that doesn't normally happen here in St. Louis, in the nicer parts of town. And so then she was mad at me. I don't know why. I showed up on Christmas Day or New Year's to show her house. And then she went and sold her house and moved to Illinois and didn't use me as her agent. I never will figure that one out. I don't understand. I don't understand that one. That was so weird. Would I show a house tomorrow? Yes. My Thanksgiving is at 4. I would show a house up until 4. Well, up until about 3. I would show a house. There's no question. I have showings scheduled for Saturday, nothing for Friday. I don't know. It's a weird thing because, agents don't have to be off. I'll get an email from Google every year. It's like, are you working Thanksgiving? It's like, maybe. Like, well, we want to update your hours on your websites and search. And it's like, if someone calls me, I'll take the call. I mean, that's the business. If someone wants to see a house, then you show them a house. I mean, as long as they're qualified. If someone wants to list their house, and I mean, it's not unusual for people to be off work right now. So it wouldn't be weird at all for people to say, hey, I'm off work. Can you come over Friday? Maybe we can talk about listing my house for sale. So anyway, enough about me. Oh no, we're going to start on me. Some of you might be wondering who I am. Why did you stumble on this live stream of all live streams? I don't know, but my name is John Shank, and I am the founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a small residential brokerage. We focus mainly on helping buyers buy homes and sellers selling theirs. At night, I do a realty live stream starting at 9 p.m. Central Time, and we talk about pretty much real estate, popular culture, things that catch my eye. Sometimes I'll have a take. Is it in the style of the old, sports talk radio? No, I don't think so. I mean, I can remember in St. Louis, it's the Fans 590. That was for years like the go-to place to talk about sports. I don't know if it's even still around because I don't pay much attention anymore. But I learned my broadcasting abilities from listening for years and years and years. You may say, well, you didn't learn much because your stream sucks. Well, it's kind of harsh. I mean, it is the day before Thanksgiving, and you come at me with that. Oh, very nice. But anyway, yeah, that's what I do. I have some other things going on, but I don't talk about them on my live stream. tonight we have a very we're going to bring the intensity down a little bit. I mean, it's the day before Thanksgiving. By the way, I do anticipate streaming probably tomorrow night. I don't know. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. We're going to talk about the kitchen sewer update. That's a big deal. We'll talk about the mortgage rates. We'll talk about a fascinating question that I saw years ago being asked. Never thought much of it, but now it's really something that fascinates me, and I hope it will give you some interest as well. We'll go over some Twitter tweets, or tweets from Twitter, and then we'll talk about some real estate articles that are kind of interesting. New home sales unexpectedly rise in October. Well, that seems odd, because all I've heard is doom and gloom. OfferPad, are they getting delisted from the New York Stock Exchange? And then are mom and pop real estate investors going away, and is this bad? I feel like what I would say about the mom and pop real estate investor, I wouldn't call them mom and pop. It's just let me go more into what I've learned as a real estate agent. Okay, like, so when you hear about a mom and pop, probably not a mom and pop, number one. Number two, they may be, like, if they're new, then they're not very sophisticated as far as investing. If they've been around and done it for like 15 to 20 years, then you can consider them a mom and pop operation. But you get a lot of pretenders in that space. And then yeah, that's what I would say about that. Is it a bad thing if they are not doing stuff? The ones that have been around know what they're doing. They would run circles around OfferPad and any of these other iBuyers. And sometimes they blow up. Don't get me wrong. It's just that they don't consume so many resources so as to make national news when they do blow up. I would say this. I did play around in investing when I was younger, and it's tough. By the way, any business you start now that you're self-financing, I mean, it's tough. People make the same mistake with real estate agents as they do with fix and flippers or investors. I want investors back here because if I do it up front, it'll focus on this and not me. We're not doing that today. Whatever. Camera. Anyway, so as a real estate, I'm sitting there as a broker, independent, nobody backing me, financing everything myself. Very hard. Very hard. If you do it as an investor or a mom and pop, like, you have literally no money and you are paying outrageous interest to flip a house, it's really tough. It's really tough. I have a lot of respect for people that do it right. But anyway, don't kid yourself. Just as in real estate, don't kid yourself with mom and pop being like, to indicate like somehow not sophisticated. For example, like in the real estate world, new real estate agents come in every year. All kinds of new agents. All kinds of agents leave. Okay. But if you can find like a hardened, experienced real estate agent, they bring some value. But people always assume the mistake people make is they assume that, like, as a real estate agent, as a new real estate agent, people always assume that, like, oh, like, the business is just out there. All you have to do is just turn on a like open sign and people come and use you. And it's like, well, that doesn't explain one thing. There's people that have been doing this real estate game for 30 years. Do you think they're just going to roll over and let you take over their business? No. Just because you decide you want to be a real estate agent doesn't mean that's going to work. I mean, to me, I'll just tell you what I've learned. It's not nice things, but look, if someone's nice enough to use you as their real estate agent, like you owe them something. You owe them your trust, your loyalty over time. Because they could pick any number of like 6 or 8,000 other agents, but they chose you. So keep that in mind. And then the same thing is true with investors. Do you know how many investors come and go because they fail? I've often told people that come to me, I'll have people come to me and say, "Hey, John, I want to be an investor. I want to make all kinds of money because I want to flip houses." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that." You know, I don't want to discourage someone. I mean, we might have the next Warren Buffett, and then we might have the next Ernest P. Worrell. Who's Ernest P. Worrell? He might have been Ernest, that guy. That was a movie. Anyway, he's dead. Not that I'm proud of it, or I just mean like in my mind, I know that he's dead. And then, should I go on with that? I got kind of caught on the dead part. People assume that you're just going to go and buy these houses and fix them up and you're going to flip them and you're going to make all this money. There's some things that you're missing. Number one, who's selling the house? How sophisticated are they as a seller? Maybe they're smart and maybe they've got a huge price tag on that house, and maybe you as a investor have no idea how much money you're going to spend to fix that thing up. And maybe the market will even shift while you're fixing it up. So you're double screwed. Okay. Well, that's number one. Number two, why did everybody else pass over this deal and you didn't? Number three, it's not because you were brilliant, just so you know. I mean, you might want to think that, but then number three, I always tell my people that want to become investors, hey, why don't you get your real estate license first? Why don't you get your real estate license first? And why don't you, after you get your real estate license, you don't have to come to me. You don't have to push your license with me, but you need to understand that if you don't have good data and you have no one around you to give you good data, you're going to get hurt. I mean, even the people with the best data are going to get hurt from time to time. So that's number one. At least learn, like, and if you don't want to be an agent, you're like, oh, I don't need to be an agent. That costs money and I'm trying to save money so I can flip these houses. You're missing it. And then other people say, well, don't be an agent because you would have to follow these rules. It's not why you want to become an agent. You want to be an agent because you want to learn about the market, learn what people are looking for, and then you can kind of fix up your houses so that people would actually buy them, because you know what's going on in the marketplace versus just going in there, painting a few walls and saying, why isn't anybody trying to buy this house? It makes sense to me. I guess I very seldom ever get anybody that says, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I'll go get my license. They all want to go to the fix and flip route. They want to buy their first house. It's like, okay. I don't know why I was talking about that. I'm sorry. I try to help with that investor thing. I see people get burned all the time. I feel like we got burned when we were doing investing. I feel like we got in a bad spot a few times. So I just kind of want to help others. That's for free. Let's go to something near and dear to my heart. As you guys know, I have a finished basement, finished it myself, worked really hard. I had one fear, and that was when I redid the flooring. I put down an insulated subfloor, and then I put down underlayment, and then I put down the flooring itself. And by the way, I use luxury vinyl plank because it doesn't suck in moisture or mold. The underlayment that I used, I have since found out really, really does a fine job of keeping moisture from coming up into an area. It doesn't do a really good job of dissipating moisture if it does get moist. And then the underlayment, if it gets wet, it will mold. That's what I learned with that. So I call it a subfloor. Let's call it an insulated subfloor. My biggest fear when I was doing the remodel was that someday my kitchen drain would collapse, and then I'd have to take up the flooring, I'd have to take up the underlayment, I'd have to move all kinds of stuff, and then I'd have to dig into the concrete and find the uh, pipe that was either clogged or cracked or collapsed. That was my biggest fear. This fear was realized maybe a week ago when I called a local drain clog or drain snake company, A&J Sewer and Drain. That's who I called. Very good experiences with them in the community. And so anyway, the guy's like, "Hey, I mean, I tried. The main sewer is fine, but when I went to do the kitchen, it's collapsed, I think." And then he said, "This is how much it costs to do a locator." Now I've had this happen. I did at my wife's house. It happened at my wife's house. It was terrible. I had to dig up the flooring there. This was a number of years back now. It seems like my wife's been with me forever, but we've only been together for a decade. Anyway, so I've been working on the basement, and you guys should know that. Let me show you where I got today. Okay. So here you go. Do you see where that spot is right there? That is where, and I just want to check and make sure you guys can see it because last night I forgot to do something. Okay, yes, you can. See that orange spot? That is where the locator that's where the locator stopped. Okay. And if you look along like the wall, you can see there was nice trim and molding, and then there was the insulated underlayment, and then there was this wonderful well, maybe that was I'm sorry, let's say the wonderful insulated subfloor, and then there was underlayment, and then there was luxury vinyl tile. And then this is where the locator was, and these are the lines that I made to see if I was right with the locator and where the kitchen pipe is. And so that's picture 1. Here's picture 2. Not very helpful in this angle, but here you go. I mean, I had to dig out all this, and I had to cut out all this, and I got that all done today. And you can see again, here's that spot. And I'm just going to go again just to see if you can see what I see. Okay, you can. All right. Now, let's go to the next one. This is just, again, with me getting it all done. And just so you can see, from this angle, that's the line. Okay. So that's that. Let me show you a video because this is what I did today. And, what was it, yesterday or the day before I didn't do the video right? I got it figured out today. And, I screwed something up. I got to remember that. Okay, here's the movie. I don't know if the sound's going to be on, but I'll cut it. That's the stepchildren being noisy. But there's the line. There's all the stuff I got rid of. It wasn't very long, but I mean, that's it. That's the work that I've done. Now I did get past that. Remove that. I did get past that today. I managed to I cut through the concrete using a circular saw and water being poured near the blade. That was a very messy, terrible job. Noisy, dusty. Even with the water, it was very dusty. Then I started with the sledgehammer, and I got a little hole so that I could kind of get some relief, so that when I hit the rest of the concrete, it cracks. Got that done. Got to where I got the hole started, and I started taking out the concrete, and then started digging. And it was supposed to be 1 foot 2 inches below the slab. Wife said that the pipe wasn't there. I was like, it's going to be there. Just kept digging, and here's what we got. I did get to the pipe. I don't know why the microphone's being weird, so I'm sorry about that if you hear like a click. So I got to the top of the pipe, but what I would say is this: some of you out there have expertise in sewery. It's not even a word. I have not excavated to where the locator stopped. I wanted to find a clean piece of pipe because I'm going to cut the pipe, or I'm going to have the plumber cut the pipe, but somebody's cutting the pipe. But what I found so far is, first of all, the soil around the pipe is just jet black. Okay. I was talking to the drain cleaner the one day, and he's like, "Hey, that black, I saw some black in the sewer. That's normally food, so that would seem to indicate that the pipe is collapsed." And then number two, the smell down there is just terrible. I thought the mold was bad. I thought the bleach was bad, but the sewer line must be open. Okay. And those of you who have ever gotten to smell a sewer line will attest to that smell. And it stings the nostrils. So it was so bad. My wife made me put a tarp over the hole tonight. So tomorrow the goal is to dig out the rest of the pipe, see if I can find the collapsed part, and I'll dig to where I can find it, and then I will cut that pipe and I will put a bag or something around the pipe that we're keeping to get rid of this smell that's in the house. Haven't decided much more on that. I would say there were some things that are interesting. One of them, in some of my pictures that I showed you along the wall there, it looked like the water had come from the wall. We have assumed for the longest time that the water was just trapped under the slab and pushing itself up and out on the sides, and that's why the water looks terrible. Some of the insulated subfloor, when it was drying. It has, in the last couple of days, it has dried and doesn't look nearly as bad. So I may not cut out all of it. The ones with the mold, like the real bad mold, that all got cut out. That's no problem. But anyway, that pipe, we know, excuse me, we have every reason to believe that before we left to Bosnia, there was a problem with the pipe. My assumption at the time was that it was just the garbage disposal. So we were going to get rid of the garbage disposal when we got back from the Balkans, and then it just got worse and worse and worse. And wife actually took the garbage disposal apart and ran water through it. It ran through perfectly. This could have been a problem for a year or more. Do I have anything like a public service announcement that might help those of you who, might be in my situation? I don't know, guys. I don't know. One time I had my sewer drain cleaned, at least the main stack, which is different than the kitchen one. And my dad asked the guy if he would go ahead and do the kitchen one. He said he didn't have enough time. He wasn't going to do it that day. And it didn't need to be done, he said. So we didn't do it then. Would that have solved a problem? I don't know. I guess when the water wasn't draining right, don't jump to the assumption that it's the garbage disposal, even though the garbage disposals are terrible and we should always get rid of them. Maybe that was something. But other than that, the only reason why I got it cameraed in the first place is because it collapsed, and it's called a camera and locator service. They put the package together. So that's what made sense for me. Sorry. I got a text. Oh gosh. I got a Facebook Messenger from the other side of the planet. Okay. So did I tell you the plans for tomorrow? The plan for tomorrow is dig out the rest of the, knock out the concrete, dig out the rest of the stuff, see if I can find the collapse, and see if I can find a good piece of pipe to cut off both sides. And then I want to put a bag around it because I won't be able to get the pieces I won't be able to get the pipe and the collars and everything that I need on Thanksgiving. But you know what? If I get to as far as I want to get, that's okay. That's okay. And then Friday, hopefully, see about getting the collar, make the cuts, screw in the boots, and then I don't know, it just depends on if the plumbing store's open. The plumbing supply store's open on Friday. We're golden. If not, we'll just wait. And what else are you going to do? Okay. Moving on. The topic tonight from Google Trends was an odd way of finding it. You know, I look at Google Trends just to see what people are talking about, just to see what people are searching for. The World Cup is going on. People are very fascinated with that. There's been shootings in different locations. I'm not real interested in reporting shootings. Some people have passed away, just natural causes or way too young. I don't know. I don't really want to cover that. But I did see that it's the 35th anniversary of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Parts of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was shot in St. Louis. The movie has scenes from St. Louis. The movie has dialogue from St. Louis, and I don't want. I don't want to. I have some civic pride. I do care about St. Louis. I'm not saying it's better than Chicago or Detroit. Well, it might be better than Detroit. I'm not saying it's Denver's nicer. It's okay. I mean, the point, like, if you have any civic pride whatsoever, which I do, there's something about that movie that's, I don't know, nostalgic and makes you happy. And also, I would say that when is the Jerk? That was Steve Martin. That was the last time St. Louis had Jackie Mason in it. We don't have a lot of movies from people interested in St. Louis. We get sometimes people shoot movies here, but they don't say they're in St. Louis. My own high school was used in a George Clooney movie, but I don't remember which one. It wasn't The Men Who Stare at Goats, but it was around that time. And our school name is Afton High School, and they took out the FF of Afton, and they changed it to Ashton. Oh, that was cool. I mean, you know, I didn't even watch the movie. I was always wanting to get around to it. I haven't. Anyway, I don't like this. Every once in a while, everything goes black on my whole screen. I don't know if my monitor's going out or what. But you know what? If it does, it's just add it to the list of garbage I have to deal with. Here we go. Let me do this here. Let me do that there. There. Okay. Now, I want to set this up a certain way, and that is when I was a youngster, my parents would put the newspaper at the island where we would also sit for breakfast. I say we would sit. I would sit there. My mom would get a paper and an ice water and cereal, and that was my breakfast. And I would read the newspaper. I'd read the sports page every day. I was maybe in 4th grade. So anyway, one day, St. Louis Post-Dispatch was the newspaper of record here in St. Louis at the time. I don't know that. I have no idea what the circulation is now, nor do I care that much. But on the front cover or front page of the newspaper, now this was an actual newspaper, it said, George Bailey should be in a mental institution, you know, given all the, I mean, he saw angels, he was erratic. He didn't beat his wife, but he yelled at the teacher. And anyway, they took everything about that movie and made it problematic. And this was in the 90s. Okay. For those of you who haven't lived through this political correctness malarkey, in the mid 90s, it was a big deal. I can remember getting forced to go to all kinds of sensitivity training at my college. A lot of the classes were all about, you know, all this stuff. It was terrible. Dating was terrible during the mid 90s at this point in time, if you were my age, because women and men were just being told all kinds of things to basically stay away from one another. Then it must have changed. It must have changed by 2000, because then we had all these revelations. What, 2 or 3? The Me Too stuff. None of that stuff would have ever happened in the mid 90s. As far as nice, a dating online. Nice. By girls 18 XYZ. Anyway, speaking of which, that's no good. But I don't know. The idea that, a movie can't be relevant years after is a tough one for me. If you've ever watched like a spaghetti Western, those things are like timeless because they're set in a particular period of time. But then when you look at like a pop culture movie, like Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, I was like a little kid watching it. I'm sure it wasn't appropriate for little kids to watch, but um, we did. And I don't know that I think Ghostbusters probably isn't bad timely. Oh, there's some movies out there that definitely. Well, I'm trying to explain it. My kids will never understand how great Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was. This movie, they'll never understand that how funny The Jerk was. Okay, that's a movie that can't be made today. So many things in my childhood were just pretty much ripped away from me, and like this is how you grow up with a society that has people with no sense of humor. I mean, Raising Arizona, didn't see that one. I was getting older, and that didn't interest me. Napoleon Dynamite, not interested. Wasn't funny to me. I mean, you could kind of tell when things started going south for me as far as funny movies. The new Will Ferrell movie, like that Eurovision Song Contest, unbelievably bad. How they got him to be in that movie. But then Anchorman 2 wasn't all that interesting. So anyway, my point is that there is something to this timeliness in movies and how they stay. If I watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles tomorrow, it would still be as wonderful of a movie as it always was. But let's get into it and see how this is set up. It says this year marks the 35th anniversary of what is widely considered the best Thanksgiving movie of all time, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And then it says Paramount is making the occasion with a new remastered 4K release featuring over an hour of deleted scenes from the original film. The two-hander starring Steve Martin and John Candy as a pair of unlikely travel companions trying to get home for Thanksgiving has stood the test of time when it comes to the brilliantly paced comic beats, but with each passing year it becomes a little more dated. Well, let's see. We all know that John Candy's dead, right? That's not. I hope I'm not telling anybody new. 1994. John Candy dead in 1994. I graduated high school in 1995. I'm just giving you dates for like reference. And he said, anyway, it says with a possible remake in the works, please don't. And it says maybe not, considering Will Smith's image isn't what it was back in 2020 when the project was announced. Imagine how that rental car meltdown would play out. Look, that I don't want to see Will Smith in anything. And I mean, I knew Will Smith when he was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He was the Fresh Prince with DJ Jazzy Jeff. Had a wonderful hit, Summertime. Parents just don't understand. It wasn't my favorite song. I didn't find it interesting. But I did like Summertime. I thought that was very smooth. Anyway, we had to wonder how much of Neil and Dell's disastrous journey could be avoided today with the innovations we have at our fingertips. That's right. But let's kind of go into this and see kind of where I'm at. In the age of smartphones with access to the internet, digital wallets, and apps like Uber, Lyft, and Airbnb, there are so many solutions that make traveling easier than it was in 1987. We even have virtual meeting software that makes travel less necessary. So Steve Martin's character might not even have to have been in New York to present a physical ad campaign to that indecisive client at all. Without the business trip 2 days before Thanksgiving, there's no movie. But where else would it have stalled out along the way? Let's take it beat by beat. All I'm going to say is this. Look, just listen to me at one point. The thing where the guys, where I believe it's John Candy, is driving, and he gets his coat caught on the car, like seatbelt. Oh, my God. And there's a deer. Oh, my God. Hilarious. Hilarious. Oh, my God. So anyway, I feel good that I got spammed early in this broadcast tonight. That was nice. Okay. The first item we're living in a different era is the fact that one of the first things Neil does is check his watch. Beside it being a very 80s watch, the time is also notable. Look, my wife tells me that I need to wear a watch. I wear a watch. I don't understand. Before I met my wife, I had a phone and it had the time on it, and it always updates. I don't exactly know why I need a watch, but she tells me I need a watch, and so I wear a watch. She buys me watches, even now. I don't understand it, but I wear them. The fact that he is also notable, it's 4:45, and he has a 6 o'clock flight. You're doing the math there. The fact that he still expects to make it when he leaves the meeting shows how far we've come and not necessarily in the right direction. That's right. And that's what I'm telling you about people taking things away from me in my lifetime. This is why men get angry over time. I used to be able to go to the airport and literally get on the plane, no big deal. Now, 2 hours before the flight, you got to get ready to be there. This is probably one case where things were simpler back then. Neil's more worried about the holdup of finding a cab than getting stuck in an airport security line. He's actually beaten to an available taxi by Kevin Bacon in a memorable cameo. With no Uber or Lyft service, he has to pay a businessman cash for his cab, then loses it to Dell in the opposite of a meet cute. I don't know what that is. But what I would say is this. There is a security. There was, before there was the TSA, okay, there was security at the airport. And I can't remember for sure, but I think you had to go through the security line, but there was no checking of your bags. There was no invasive searches where people are saying, turn your head and cough. I mean, there's nothing like, there was no, and if you were an old lady or an old man, you're getting wheeled through the airport, no problems. No problems. The level of stupid we've got to deal with now because of people that just want to take away our freedom succeeded. And so now we have to deal with this crap. It says Neil arrives at the airport at 5:58 thinking he'll be able to board the plane if he hurries. There's no way to get through security, no ID or ticket checkpoints. The TSA didn't yet exist yet. Thanks, Bush. By the way, thanks, Bush. Don't catch me on being an ideologue. I dislike both parties immensely. We don't actually see this, but it suggests only a few minutes before arriving at the airport and reaching his gate. We'll never know if he would have actually made the original flight because by the time he gets to the gate, it's been delayed. Okay. When Neil finally gets on board with his paper ticket, now see how they have paper ticket in italics? I'm sorry, in italics. I've worked all day. I apologize. When I flew to the Balkans from St. Louis to Frankfurt, we were up at the ticket counter. They're like, "Do you want a paper ticket?" We're like, "Yeah, sure." It was great. We just handed it to the person. It was just the same as it was in 1987. He discovers he's been assigned a coach seat despite paying for first class. Could that happen now without the passenger being aware of it before getting on the plane? Um, yes. If the plane is overbooked, yes. Neil and Dell meet for a third time as seatmates, cementing the growing animosity between them. Their forced landing in Wichita due to a snowstorm in Chicago, unfortunately, is something that still plagues travelers today. The aftermath, however, is a different story. Now, I'm not so sure about that. I did read this, a little bit of the article. I didn't read it all. It says, what's the first thing you would do if you were forced to make an unexpected landing in a random city and might have to spend the night? Well, I don't know. Here's what I've always seen. I've always seen um, people laying around on the floor just hoping to get the next flight at the airport. Couple problems with that for me. Number one, the idea of laying on a public surface floor, okay, disgusts me so bad that first of all, you'll never see it. It's not going to happen. Okay, for me. And then I wasn't there a time when they were required to give you a hotel room and required to bus you there? I don't know if that's still the case, but anyway, it says, get on your phone and start looking for a hotel room, right? Yeah. I don't know about that. But then it says, and failing that, you might turn to an Airbnb or VRBO for a travel site for more options. You can rent. Are you kidding me? You're telling me you could rent a room within a couple of hours in a place on a Airbnb? What you wouldn't have to do is wait in a long line for a payphone and risk all the local rooms being gone by the time you get to the front. Payphones were real. It's very strange. The idea of a payphone now, my kids would never understand it. I'm only 45. I don't have one foot in the grave, I don't think. If I do, please play this so that it looks weird and prescient in the future. But I don't want to jinx myself, so maybe not. Anyway, that's what happens to Neil, and it's the leverage Dell uses to stick with him a little longer. If Neil had any other options, he'd wait out the storm and get on another plane the next day, and that would be the end of the movie. He's out of options, though, so he heads with Dell to the Braidwood Inn. Here's another instance where a rideshare app would come in handy. They have to settle for the 80s equivalent, Doobie's Taxiola, a tricked-out cab with a shady driver who insists on taking the scenic route in the middle of the night. Both men hand over their diner's cards, which still exist. I don't know about that. To the hotel clerk, who rings them up with a manual carbon credit machine and mixes them up when handing them back. This could probably still happen today, but the mistake would be evident much earlier. Now, I don't know if those exist now. Carbon credit card. But so what it was, you'd put your credit card. I'm telling people in case, like my average viewer is 20, between 25 and 34. So I don't know if you saw this. Okay. But what you would do is you'd have a credit card. It wouldn't have that silly chip in it. Okay. I don't even think it had the magnetic strip. But you take the card and you put it down on this thing, and then you run this rolly thing over it, and it creates a carbon copy. What was a carbon copy? Well, you've seen carbon copies. They still exist. But then they would hand you one and your card back, and then they would keep one. And under your receipt of payment. Despite not specifying a smoking room, you weren't required to back then. I didn't even know you could specify a smoking room. However, I have still been in hotels where somebody was smoking before me. It smells like an ashtray. It's terrible. Don't try to imagine what it must have smelled like in there. It's not a fun exercise. It's bad even now. That night, while the guys are sleeping, a teen breaks into their room and robs them. Fun fact, in the deleted scene, the same teen delivers a pizza to the room earlier in the night, and Dell stiffs him on the tip, so this is his revenge. If the door had an electric card reader like most hotels' rooms do now, it wouldn't have been so easy for the intruder to get in. They would have still had their money the next morning and one less thing to fight about now. I've been in hotels a long time. Hotels have like door locks, and then they have like the chain lock, and then they have the bolt lock. I don't really know how feasible it is for the guy to get in, but then they did go to cards, okay? And so you put in your card and it works. What I saw in the Balkans, specifically Slovenia, in a very new hotel, was your phone has a QR code on it, and you put it up to this scanner, and it automatically lets you in the room. There's not even really a lock. Now, understand I was also in part of Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, in Croatia. It was not Novalja. It was after that. My wife had been there previously, but anyway, they still had keys, like physical keys. It was wild. It's 2022. They still had physical keys. I went from physical keys to QR codes on your phone. Wild to open the door. A plane to Chicago isn't looking good. A weather app would take the guesswork out of it. So the next phase of the trip involves taking a train. They get as far as Jefferson City, that's in Missouri, before the train breaks down and they have to walk to a bus station and catch a bus to St. Louis. Again, in Google search, a call to the credit card company and a rideshare would take care of all this, and Neil would be home by Thanksgiving. End of movie. I don't know that that's true. Have you ever been in Jefferson City? Where are you driving to? Like rideshare from Jefferson City? That's going to be like, it's like at least 3 hours away. Let me look. I'm going to Google because that's just the way it is. They have better maps. Yeah, 2 hours. I'm sorry. 2 hours. What kind of Uber's driving 2 hours? I don't know. Anyway, so we disagree with that. Now, without any money for more tickets, Doug goes into salesman mode and makes some cash selling curtain rings, which, by the way, are mostly obsolete now. As he helps Neil out, and after sharing a meal at a diner in St. Louis, they once again go their separate ways. We might as well take this opportunity to note how many payphones Neil uses in this film to call home. His wife has no idea where he is, so she can directly. She can only wait for him to call her with his travel updates as Thanksgiving creeps ever closer. It's unfathomable. No, it's not. I literally, as a kid, as I grew up, like I would go from school, I would go over to a friend's house. We would hang out until 5 or 6, and I would know to come home for dinner, or else I would be yelled at. We didn't call. If you were sick at school, they would call your parents, but you would not have mass emails and all this other crap. We literally took our report cards home. Yeah, if you have a kid in school now and you're my age, you're like, what is all this garbage? I mean, we have our location of our family members on our phone right now. We know where everybody is at all times. That doesn't stop people from getting murdered, which is terrible. I mean, I'm not thrilled about that, but it should. It should. Hopefully they find the people. Neil's next travel getting dropped off in a rental car parking lot with a set of keys to a car that isn't there. The bus drops him off and just leaves him there. There's no airport shuttle on the way. He's just completely stuck. Let me see. I did rent a car in the Balkans. We had to walk there, and then they brought the car to us. I have been to Denver, and they take you to the car. You may even check in before you. No, you check in before you go. They put you on the bus. They take you out there, and then your car is in the spot that they say it is. He's completely stuck. Again, the final straw leads to the famous tirade aimed at Edie McClurg, a rental car agent, after he's had to walk through the snow across the highway and the actual airport runway to get there, which you wouldn't be allowed to walk across the airport runway. The punchline is that he's the one who's blanked because he's lost his paper rental agreement. It would be a snap to look up nowadays if he didn't already have it accessible on his phone, but no such luck for Neil. And so this is something I would impress on all of you. Okay. Back then, if you lost your paper, you were screwed. They used a different word. Like, if you lost a ticket to an airplane, you were toast. Like, you weren't getting on the plane. Like, they didn't wait. There was no caring of any kind. If you lost your rental papers, same thing. I mean, you actually had to have physical pieces of paper, and you could not lose them. Dell comes to the rescue in with a rental car he was able to acquire with Neil's Diners Club card. He lets him a cigarette just like in the room, and we're willing to bet he didn't even have to request a car you could smoke in. The near-death experience they faced when going the wrong way on the highway could have been easily avoided by using a navigation app. That wouldn't have helped when the car caught on fire, though. Not true. I was in Chicago, and I pulled out, and I had my navigation app, and I was going the wrong way in downtown Chicago on a street, and people were freaking the hell out, and they should have. I had my whole family in the car, but we made it. We just turned. It worked. By the way, I've seen people go the wrong way down one-way roads besides me. Anyway, the last hotel where they spend the night together won't take their toasted credit cards. It says another phone call and this problem would have been resolved too. This person keeps saying that you could make these phone calls, but you can't even make phone calls anymore. You have to go on somebody's app, and the app has to be working because people aren't working at these times. So, I mean, everything gets done from an app now. You're not even calling people. On their final leg, they're stopped by a state trooper played by Michael McKean, who impounds their burnt-out car. According to McKean, there was a cut scene where he tells them they've overshot Chicago by 100 miles and says which a navigation app would have also told them. Finally, Dell's come through with another primitive rideshare, a 3-hour ride in the back of a cheese truck to downtown Chicago. It says they seem to go their separate ways again. If Dell had asked Neil for his email address instead of his home address, he might have given it to him. Dell definitely would have found him on social media and followed every account, but that would have taken away from the feeling of reluctant parting that makes the scene so heartwarming. If Neil hadn't put the pieces together on the train and gone back, there's a real chance they've never seen each other again. We're glad he does because it makes for a perfect ending. So how many, do you remember the age of the actors in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? They were in their mid-40s at least, maybe even older in 1987. So, I mean, are all your friends on Facebook now that are that age? I'll tell you, if I didn't have my business, I almost had a southern accent there. If I didn't have my business, I would not be on Facebook. Well, I can't say that because my wife likes to share pictures with Bosnia. So maybe I would be, just so I could, well, she started my account anyway. Anyway, my goal would not to be on every single social media channel. That'd be for sure. And then it says, at the end, it says, a clever writer would still make Planes, Trains, and Automobiles work in the present day with a few tweaks. Yeah, I mean, no. John Candy, Steve Martin, that's it. That's the movie. It said the question isn't whether it's done, but whether it should be without John Hughes around to at least consult on the project. His gifts for characterization and storytelling, not to mention the performances of Martin and Candy, are what made the original movie more than just a silly comedy of errors. Agree. Name movie remake. It's been as good as the original or better. You never say never ever have a Titanic 2. Interest rates, very important. Very important for affordability. What are we at today? We are at 6.64%, a drop of 1 basis point from yesterday. Woo-hoo. That'll fix the market. That's sarcasm. We need to be at about 5.5. Oh, here we go. We're going to start on the tweets. Sorry, I was messed up. So, Rick Palacios Jr. writes a 26% cancellation rate for home builders in October. Tomorrow's new home sales release won't reflect what's really happening with dropped contracts. This is true. We'll see that in the future. Dustin Jalbert, back of the napkin math. New home sales reported by census at cancellation rates in the 6 to 8% rates. Overstated net sales by roughly 50,000 units, a cancellation rate of about 25%. In October, census new home sales overstating net sales by 150 to 200,000 units. So this chart's going up, but the wrong way. It's cancellation. Market Mania. This is in Canada. Over 40% of Canada's GDP between 2017 and 2021 is housing in Canada, compared to 20% in the U.S. during the same period. Canada has bet big on financial bubble doomed to fail. No wonder the yield curve is practically warning of a depression. People bet their life savings. People bet their businesses on it. People bet their retirement on it. What happens when all that vanishes? A depression. Here's where it gets interesting to me. Somebody writes, you're 100% correct, but they won't allow us to feel financial pain for very long. It's not good for the votes. And then it says Canada doesn't have a choice from Darth Powell. But let me just say this. Many, many people are buying houses right now saying the government will not let me get foreclosed on because the market is so hot. It's already their fault that the market is hot. They're making a bet that things are going to be just like they were in 2007, that there'll be a home loan modification program by the government that will allow them to keep their homes, pay a lower interest rate, maybe not pay a few months in mortgages. That's what people are thinking. Why should they think that? Before 2007, unfathomable. Now, totally within the cards. If you so much as fart and it smells bad, the government can compensate you, and they will now. It's absolutely amazing where we've gone with government involvement in all aspects of our lives. And some of you are very happy about that. I'm not. Lance Lambert. This was a kind of a long thread, but I wanted to talk about it. It says, in a bull scenario, Morgan Stanley thinks, in a bull, that means like in a good scenario, Morgan Stanley thinks U.S. home price growth could be 0 in 2023. In a bad case scenario or bear scenario, Morgan Stanley thinks U.S. home prices could crash 20% peak to trough. That's not good. That's not good, but almost inevitable when they raise rates. This has to happen when you raise rates. What people are not getting, and I keep trying to put it out there, is you can't kill the housing market without killing employment. Okay. And for most of the people around, when is the last time we've had a serious recession, not included the Rona? I mean, when have we really had a situation where people were looking for work and it was not available and could not be found? I can remember in the mid-90s. Scott Ingram Realtors. Here's the number of members for the last 6 years as of June 30th. And here's the 68,000, 62,000, 56,000, 54,000, 52,000, 48,000. People are still signing up. 6,066. Boy, that's a bad number. In fiscal 2022, and 9.65%, just behind fiscal 21's 10.31% growth. I was like, where did it go? It's at the top. It says, per the recently released TRIB annual report, there were 68,933 agents at the end of June. Here's how that number has grown in the last 20 years. Nearly 38,000 agents in the last 10 years. 13.5 thousand in the 10 years prior, has doubled since 2014. Now, this is in Canada. You say, John, why are you focusing on Canada? You're in the United States. It all kind of mixes together. I find it kind of now. What I don't approve of is Marcia Fudge going over to Japan to learn about urban housing. Plenty of problems here, plenty of ways to fix it. We're just not doing it. Nik Shah, with rates still high, new listings continue to plummet as many sellers at 3 to 4% are holding back. New listings are down 17% year over year. Let me just say, I think that's a short version. Is there a reason to sell your house right now if you have a 3% mortgage? Well, the question is how long have you had your 3% mortgage? Have you had it, since, have you, number one, refinanced into it, or did you buy into it? Either way, okay. Are you moving because there's some sort of great opportunity out there to buy? My argument during the last 2 years has been you may get 3%, you may get a 3% mortgage, but the housing stock was terrible. It's terrible. Very few good listings. Multiple offers on garbage listings doesn't make it a good plan. I disagree with people that think that that there will be no movement in the marketplace because everyone has a 3% mortgage. I think there will always be movement in the marketplace. It's just not the positive movement that you want. It's like people die, people get transferred for work, people start families. Tracey Ryniec, she's replying to the Lance Lambert article. Morgan Stanley, tight inventory won't stop the home price correction. It will all depend on your location, right? I expect the Midwest to see the lowest price declines. The West will likely get hammered. The $1 million home isn't sustainable. Now, during 2007, Chicago did not rally back quickly. That was the Midwest. During that bust, Detroit did not rally back quickly. St. Louis did not rally back quickly. Okay. Not like a Denver. That was ridiculous. It was almost like it didn't even happen. The $1 million home just isn't sustainable. I don't know. But as far as will it depend on, yeah, I think so. I think that if you're in Florida and people keep moving down there, like demographics wise, should be all right. We may lose some value, but not terrible. Phoenix is going to eat it. Phoenix, Las Vegas, not good situations. This is Odeta Kushi. She says, or she is a deputy chief economist at First American Real Estate and Household Housing Finance, Data and Econ Housing, co-host of Reconomy podcast, Albanian American Views of My Own. I don't do charts or anything like that. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at, I like to take what I read and then have a take on it. I don't like coming up with an original take because there's just so many good people out there. I mean, why should I come up with my own take? I can agree or disagree with what they write based on my position as a real estate broker. In the week ending November 18th, 2022, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage declined for a second week in a row to 6.67 from 6.9. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage remains 3.4 percentage points higher than 1 year ago. As a result, seasonally adjusted refinance applications were down 86% compared to 1 year ago. However, the weekly decline in mortgage rates prompted a 1% weekly increase in SA refinancing applications. I know, seasonally adjusted. Okay. Seasonally adjusted purchase applications increased 2.8% on a weekly basis, the third consecutive weekly increase. The weekly decline in rates resulted in nearly 8,000 increase in house buying power. Yeah, but people, I don't think people are like, okay, let me go get a mortgage pre-approval letter now. I just noticed that the rates dropped from 7% to 6.4%. They're not that sophisticated. They're really not that sophisticated as a whole. Maybe 10% are looking at it that way. It says mortgage applications are a leading indicator of closed sales, and partial November applications data point to a modest uptake in existing home sales for the month of November. However, it's still too soon to call the bottom. because the outlook for mortgage is highly uncertain. Okay. I don't know what the definition is of a mortgage application. I know what a mortgage pre-approval application is. I know what that I would think if you're taking applications there, I mean that's a big deal. But if you're talking about specifically when the person actually purchases and they apply to get their mortgage, I mean, I have buyers that have been around for I have buyers that have been around for 2 and 3 years and don't buy a house. Maybe it's just me. It says breaking down purchase activity by state in October reveals that on a yearly basis, the states with the largest declines were Utah, Hawaii, Idaho, Delaware, and Kentucky. Only Washington, D.C. experienced yearly declines in single digits. Wonder why? Because the lobbying machine is powerful and it goes on forever. But that Boise, Idaho thing, I don't know if they seem to be in real trouble. I don't know that to be true. I just see the statistics and they're always up there. Nick Gerli, I'm going with that. Wall Street is bailing on the Phoenix house market. Investor purchases down 49% year over year in Q3 2022, below pre-pandemic levels. Q4 will look even worse. Data comes from Redfin. There you can see the drops going down. It says real estate investors are also bailing on Portland, Vegas, Sacramento, Atlanta, and Charlotte. Investor purchases down 30% year over year nationally. It's crazy how fast this happened. Only 6 months ago, investors were saying inflation, housing shortage, millennials meant it was a great idea to buy. Several rate hikes later, they're out. Tells you that their business plan was never about fundamentals. It has never been about fundamentals. And the whole idea that millennials were going to carry the market is dicey. There was no such thing as a housing shortage. Dicey proposition. Anyway, this decline in investor purchases is likely just the prelude to something more. A similar decline happened in 2006, right before the biggest housing crash in history. So there's your chart. And then it says, want to look this data up for yourself? You can. Redfin makes investor purchase data available nationally for the 50th largest housing markets. We've never had the level of national iBuyers investors in the marketplace before we did. I mean, in 2021. I mean, it is going to be fascinating to see how bad they really ended up hurting the market. Wall Street Silver on Twitter. I thought this was an interesting chart, and I would like to get your thoughts, okay? Because I don't understand it. Rising rates at the fastest pace in history. Meanwhile, housing and mortgages are already dead. Layoffs are climbing, and the Fed plans a few more rate increases. Brilliant. That was like, I don't remember who that was. Now here, look, I can't do this for sure, but this is the yield on the Treasury. And this says peak middle class. Now this was 1940, 1950, 52. It's going in 2-year increments, okay? And I was born in 1977, so it just sharply increased, okay? Sharply increased. And then Volcker came and he's like, we're fixing this inflation problem, okay? And then it went down, okay? And then it says from about 1996, okay, middle class disintegration. I graduated from high school in 1995. It sure does seem like things have not been good for me over my existence. I will say that it's my fault, okay? I will accept blame. But man, I tried. I failed, but is it perhaps a macro issue? And then 4% Powell. Now, is this what I'm trying to figure out is he saying that as we raise rates, we're going to get the middle class back? Because that would be nice. I like the middle class. I'm familiar with it. I'm in it. Actually, I'm lower middle class. But anyway, I'd like to be middle class. I would have liked my kids to have grown up in a more fair environment. I mean, we literally couldn't do some things that other people could. because we didn't play that game. I'll tell you about that someday. Let's move to some articles now. Here is a kind of a change in the announcement. Now we talked about that chart from Rick Palacios Jr. In it, they said that the cancellations aren't part of the numbers. But let's just see what the article says. Maybe they'll put it in there. It says new home sales jump unexpectedly in October despite high mortgage rates. It says sales of U.S. single-family homes unexpectedly jumped in October, shrugging off rising mortgage rates and house prices, which have drastically eroded affordability. New home sales rebounded to 7.5% to a seasonal annual rate of 632,000 units last month, the Commerce Department said Wednesday. September's sales pace was revised down to 588,000 units from the previously reported 603,000 units. Sales surged 45.7% in the Northeast and accelerated 16% in the densely populated South, but they tumbled 34.2% in the Midwest and fell 0.8% in the West. It says economists polled by Reuters had forecast new home sales, which accounted for about 10% of U.S. home sales, would decline to a rate of about 570,000 units in October. New home sales were volatile on a month-to-month basis. Sales dropped 5.8% on a year-to-year basis in October. Now, I don't believe the market's open tomorrow for Thanksgiving. So we don't really know what that data is going to do. It's like if the market's strong is if the housing market is strong, is Wall Street happy? Or is Wall Street sad knowing that it's a good chance they're going to continue to raise rates because of the strong showing in housing? I don't have an answer for you. I was putting that out there as the question. It says, the housing market has been hammered by aggressive Federal Reserve interest rate hikes that are aimed at curbing high inflation by dampening demand in the economy. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate reached 7% in October for the first time since 2002. Data from mortgage finance agency Freddie Mac showed the rate averaged 6.61% in the last week. Sales of previously owned homes logged their ninth straight monthly decline in October, while single-family home building and permits for future construction dropped to the lowest levels since May of 2020, report showed last week. And look, just so you know, 2020, I mean, I was selling houses and it was not easy to buy a house. People were still paying. We were still in competition with maybe one or two people if it was a nice house. The median new home price in October was $493,000, a 15.4% increase from a year ago. There were 470,000 new homes on the market at the end of last month, up from 463,000 units in September. Houses under construction accounted for 63.4% in the industry, and with homes yet to be built making up 23.6%. This is tough. Look, if you're, I mean, the definitions here and the timeliness of the data are key. You know, are 470,000 new homes on the market, but they're not built yet, 23% of them? Or what are we doing here? I would need to know more. Completed houses accounted for 13% of the inventory, well below the long-term average of 27%. At October's sales pace, it would take 9 months to clear the supply of houses in the market, down from 9.4 months in September. Look, I am not confounded by the numbers. Okay. The numbers don't look good. The charts aren't trending in the right direction. Okay. And I'm getting this vibe. People say, oh, well, because of this chart, it shows that this bad stuff isn't coming. It's not going to happen. And I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't good. And I don't think that it's a political thing either. I don't think it is. I don't know. Next article. OfferPad receives notice of noncompliance with NYSE trading share price listing rule. Chandler, Arizona. OfferPad Solutions, a leading tech-enabled platform for residential real estate. They're not. They're a house flipper, an iBuyer. Today announced that it received a notice from the New York Stock Exchange that is non-compliant with Section 80201C of the New York Stock Exchange listed company manual because the average closing price of the company's common A stock was less than $1 over a consecutive 30-day trading period. The notice does not result in the immediately dislisting of the company or delisting of the company's Class A common stock from the NYSE. They call them penny stocks for a reason. Where's Open Door going to go? I don't know. Their business model is sustainable. The way they do it is not. They ramped up way too fast. I mean, that was a mistake. It says on November 16th, the company notified NYSE it intends to secure the stock price deficiency and return to compliance with the NYSE continued listing standard. The company can regain compliance anytime within the 6-month period following receipt of the notice. If on the last trading day of any calendar month during the cure period, the company has a closing share price of at least $1 and an average closing share price of at least $1 over the 30-day trading period ending on the last trading day of that month, the company intends to consider available alternatives, including but not limited to a reverse stock split, subject to stockholder approval no later than the company's next annual meeting of stockholders, if necessary to cure the stock price non-compliance. Under NYSE rules, if the company determines that it will cure the stock price deficiency by taking an action that will require stockholder approval at its next annual meeting of stockholders, the price condition will be deemed cured if the price promptly exceeds $1 per share and the price remains above that level for at least the following 30 days. It says the company's Class A common stock will continue to be listed to trade on the NYSE during this period, subject to the company's compliance with other NYSE listing standards. Let's learn about OfferPad, at least what they say. It says their mission is to determine the best home buying and home selling experience so you can spend less time real estate and more time living. Listen, going to buy a house should take time. Going to buy a house should take effort and energy and desire. They're expensive. You've put all your life's work into buying one. Do never, ever, ever think that it should be this easy thing where you press a button on an app and you've instantly bought a house. That is ridiculous. It will always be ridiculous. There are no cultures in the world that buy houses like that. They will not. From cash offers and flexible listing options to mortgage and buyer services, their mortgage business has got to be trashed by now. Redfin had to ditch theirs. OfferPad has been helping homeowners since 2015. Oh, great. With our local expertise in residential real estate with proprietary technology to put you in control of the process and help find the right solution that fits your needs. If you believe any of that garbage, you deserve to buy a crappy house. And then I'm not going to read the forward-looking statements because they're long, they're tedious, and they don't tell us anything. Look, if OfferPad does a reverse stock split, does that change the fact that their business model is seriously flawed and they're in real trouble? I guess. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't. I read. Oh God, there's a guy that wrote a book. He always talked about 10 baggers. The idea was you buy stocks that like something about the business. There's a lot of truth to that. Like if you're talking to me, say, John, would you buy a brokerage stock right now? Absolutely. Oh hell no. Oh hell no. You say, John, why? Why would you not buy? Well, what are you going to get for earnings? You say, well, they can't keep going down. Oh my God. Do you know how much money is being just thrown away, burned by national brokerages that are listed on the stock exchange? I mean, you got to have compliance officers. You've got to have people that sell your stock to you have to have marketing. You have to have PR, research. You have to have bosses that watch the other bosses that watch the other bosses, layers and layers of bureaucracy. You've got a real problem because you got to lay all those people off when the economy turns and you sell less homes. It's not that the brokerage model is a bad idea. It's that you have a serious problem when people aren't buying houses. Like when there's no transactions, you've got a problem as a broker. Now, John, would you buy a mortgage company right now? Absolutely. I mean, come on. Stop being stupid. They couldn't even make it during the time, the just go time of the last like 3 years. If companies couldn't make it through that time, do you really think they're going to make it when the economy just goes in the tank? You say, John, are you calling for a recession? Yes. Yes, I am. Yes, the whole time. There's never been there's never been a secret. I say the economy is going just horribly, going to get worse. How worse? I don't want to play that on 20%. I don't know. Double digit unemployment? I don't know. Can we agree that that's bad though? That's the other thing. It's like, even then, do we even agree on like what is bad? Some idiot from the Atlantic will write an article that'll say unemployment at 10% is good. Here's why. Not good if you're one of the unemployed. John, would you buy an iBuyer? Come on, be serious. Be serious. No. Is it because you're worried about them as competition? No. No, they've got a terrible business model. No, absolutely not. And you say, well, John, that's like housing is like 20. Would you buy a home builder stock right now? Are you out of your mind? I mean, come on. Well, we're at the bottom. There's no way we're at the bottom. No way. No way. I mean, if you say you're supposed to trade what you know, I'm not giving investment advice. I'm telling you what I would do personally. Okay. I just want to make that clear. I don't want anybody to say, well, John, I shorted the home builders and they popped and I got hit with a short squeeze. Look, that's on you. I'm just saying the whole point of this idea where where you buy what you know, or when you invest on things you know about and that should lead to some sort of success. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just right now, not great. Not great. Last article, very fascinating. That's why I'm running long tonight. I will go over this because actually tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and if I do stream, which I'm planning on, we're going to do on what I'm thankful for in 2022. I think that's important. Let's continue. Mom and top real estate investors did I say mom and top? I don't know. Mom and pop real estate investors are pulling way back. Here's where and why it matters. Okay, this ought to be good. How long is this? I'm not going to do a whole bunch of this. This is too big, too long for the end of the night. But anyway, for the past several years, venture capital-backed investments behemoths and mom and pop newbies alike, have poured money into real estate. With mortgage interest rates at historically low levels and stimulus cash sloshing through the economy, real estate investment went from vigorous to full-on feverish. And along the way, investors, many of whom came to the party with all-cash offers, fully changed the face of many markets, sometimes locking out first-time home buyers. But see, they've already infected this article with, for the past several years, venture capital-backed investment behemoths and mom and pop newbies. When I told you in the beginning of the show, look, mom and pop newbies, fine, but the real mom and pop investor companies are smart, and they've been doing it for a long time. However, many of these investors, especially smaller ones, have recently slammed the brakes on their purchases as housing market has shifted. I don't think that's so true, as much as to get an investor loan, you're probably paying 10%. Housing market conditions that made the foray into real estate investment at such a sexy proposition have in large part begun to dry up as mortgage rates have soared and the large hikes in rental prices are beginning to slow. In some parts of the country where investors competed directly with first-time and other buyers, often winning bidding wars, investors have been beating a hasty retreat. So Realtor.com dug into the data to figure out where investor home purchases have fallen the most. Buyers might have a stronger shot at purchasing homes where they hope to live in these markets if they're not competing with as many cash-flush competitors. I agree with that. It says, note, we only looked at sales of investment properties that purchased using mortgages, which according to Darren Bloomquist is where you'll find more of the beginner investors. These homes are generally flipped or rented out. And see, that doesn't, I mean, no offense, but that doesn't take into account then. Well, that's not true. I'll tell you, and like here, if you are an established business with a bank and a member of that bank, if you would have an established line of credit to buy houses, and it would not be a mortgage. It'd be a rolling rate. So I don't think that's true. These are people that are definitely loans going to get wiped. These are the mom and pops that don't see it coming. Rising home values the past several years pushed many of the investor buyers out of the premier coastal real estate markets into smaller cities. They included places like Boise, Idaho, where home prices were traditionally more affordable than urban hubs such as New York City, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco. However, those places where investors flooded into are now the places where investors are pulling back out the most. The geography has started to shift. Investors are going to be looking at markets that are cheaper. Good luck finding them. Nationally, the portion of investors using a mortgage to buy a rental property or a home flip is a 3-year low as of October, according to seasonally adjusted data from Optimal Blue, a mortgage data clearinghouse. Fewer than 1 in 17 mortgage is being used for an investment purchase, down from about 1 in 12 a little less than a year ago, but that's still high. Many smaller mom and pop investors who don't have the mountains of cash of the institutional investors, the big banks, hedge funds, and other large financial companies, usually buy homes with mortgages. I don't know that that's true. Some of these homes are then used as rentals, which can be highly profitable in places where home costs are low, but rents are high and rising. Or they purchase properties that need work, hold on to them for a few months, and then sell them for a hefty profit. But it's hard to make the numbers work in today's cost squeeze market. Yes, that's right. For example, an investor who was looking at borrowing $400,000 to buy a rental property last year with a 3.5 mortgage rate on a 30-year fixed lane would need to earn about $1,800 a month to cover the investment. At that same hypothetical investor looking at borrowing $400 in today's roughly 7% mortgage rate, it will take around $2,700 to cover the monthly payment. In many places, renters simply can't afford the $900 rent hike, so the investment no longer makes sense. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But I would say 90% of investors are house flippers. So this doesn't apply to them. Investors will jump back in when things change, meaning some combination of lower borrowing costs, significant price reductions, the capacity of renters to cover much higher leases. I don't see that happening. The last one, significant price reductions, I do see happening, but you have the same issue then. Why are you renting when you could buy the house, fix it up, and sell it? And then lower borrowing costs, that would be lower rates, and maybe, but not right now. So where have investors buyer pulled back the most? To figure it out, we looked at Optimal Blue mortgage data for the 100 largest metropolitan areas, and we identified the places where investor purchases as a share of all mortgage finance purchases has dropped the most year over year since the pandemic peak. To add context, cash purchase data from Adam Data Solutions, another real estate provider, was included for metro areas when it was available, and we included only the single metro area with the largest drop for any state to ensure geographical diversity. Metros include the main city and surrounding towns, suburbs, and smaller urban areas. Why is Phoenix not on here? Why is Phoenix not on it? We talked about this. Why is Phoenix not on here? Is it because the iBuyers were there? Why is Las Vegas not on there? I'm just putting it out there. Seattle, investors have backed off the real estate purchase in Emerald Cities. Their purchases just aren't penciling out. In markets like Seattle, which have gotten so expensive where buyers are paying $800,000 and $900,000 of rent recovery to cover, that's going to be $6,000 to $7,000 a month. For a potential landlord, the prospect of finding a renter who can pay that kind of money every month is increasingly slim. Nonetheless, cash purchases in Seattle have held steady for about the past year for around 20% of all sales. Cincinnati, Ohio. In Cincinnati, the portion of homes being bought by investors with mortgages surged before the COVID pandemic, making up 1 in 11 mortgages. But in 2022, they dropped to 1 in 20. Charles Tassel, the chief operating officer at the National Real Estate Investors Association, also based in Cincinnati, said he watched his property values in the area appreciated rapidly in 2010s, which combined with low interest rate mortgages attracted a boatload of investors. In Deer Park, Ohio, a suburb where Tesla lived for several years. Homes used to sell for 60 to 130 in the 2000s. In the past few years, however, their price tags have shot up to the $150,000 to $250,000 range. It's not good. With higher prices and mortgage rates, deals and investors have become slimmer and slimmer margins. Unit prices come down a little bit, but we're not seeing the investors jump in strongly. Boise, Idaho. I've always been curious by this one. Boise has been at the top of hot real estate market list for the past couple of years, with soaring demand and real estate values to match. Many buyers flocked to the city during the pandemic, especially those hailing from California in search of cheaper real estate at lower cost of living. Builders, home flippers, and landlords jumped in with both feet. However, the real estate market in Boise has since cooled. More new construction and more homes sitting longer on the market have given local inventory a boost. At the same time, there are fewer buyers in the market, so prices dipped nearly 2% in October from September, and prices rose just under 2% year over year in October. Those aren't the kind of numbers investors want to see. I don't think they're looking at those numbers really. By late 2020, 1 in every 7 mortgages was taken out by an investor. Most recently, the portion of mortgages going to investors matched the national figure. Denver, Colorado, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Worcester, Mass, Oklahoma City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Louisville, Kentucky, Dallas, Texas. I would not. How do I put this? I'm going to close this. I would not. Here's what I would say. I would not base if I were a competent investor in real estate, I would not make my decision based on that Realtor.com article. I would not make financial decisions based on that Realtor.com article. Why? Because I would hope that I'd be smarter than that. It's not that their data is wrong. It's that it's on such a macro level that it's not really beneficial to me. I probably know the market better than they do in my market. Okay. I'm not trying to be smug. I'm just saying, if I'm an established investor in Phoenix, Arizona, okay, I probably haven't even been participating in the marketplace for the past 2 years. Okay. Because I cannot beat venture capital backed behemoths in price offering. If some idiot's going to give someone $20,000 and $30,000 more than I can, I'm not competing. So I'm basically sitting on my hands. I might, as things get really bad now, I might start peeking around. I don't know. Well, I think I'm going to call the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you popped in. There's going to be a Thanksgiving show. I don't know if it's going to be during the day or in the evening. I think it's going to be in the evening because I got to work on the sewer. But I also have to eat turkey. What time is your Thanksgiving? Mine is 4 p.m. It's actually going to be almost dark out then. Crazy how the weather changes this time of year. Anyway, I'm going to head out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next one. By the way, if I don't see you before tomorrow, which I won't, have a happy Thanksgiving.